I'd like to call to order the Sacramento Transportation Authority and the Sacramento Abandoned Vehicle Service Authority on December 12th, 2019. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Good afternoon. Director Carr, Frost, Gatewood.
And please turn off your phones.
Guerra. Here. Hanson. Here. Harris. Howell. Hume. Here. Kennedy. Here. Lozano. Middleton. Here. Natoli. Schneer. Cerna. Swin.
Here.
Peters.
Here. You have a quorum. Please read the statement.
This meeting of the Sacramento Transportation Authority is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel, on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T UVerse cable systems. The meeting is closed captioned and webcast at sacmetrocable.tv. Today's meeting will replay Saturday, December 14th at 2 p.m. and Wednesday, December 18th at 6 p.m. on Channel 14. Members of the audience wishing to address the board may sign up electronically at the kiosk or paper sign up in the back of the room. Please speak into the microphone when addressing the board and state your name for the record.
Okay.
Yes.
All your remarks. Would everyone stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For your first item, you have an off agenda to determine the necessity to hear, and it is a presentation of the resolution recognizing Norm Hom upon the occasion of his retirement from the Sacramento Transportation Authority, with presentation to follow.
I'll move the item.
Second.
Please vote. Oh, are we,
Voice
sorry,
vote,
we don't
please.
have a screen today?
No, sorry.
We'll have a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Noes or abstentions? Okay. Mr. Hom, would you join me at the podium?
I'll turn you on.
Thank you. Oh, boy.
The first one for everything.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Me too.
So, okay, let's focus on Mr. Hom here, who today is his last board meeting for the Sacramento Transportation Authority, and we have a resolution for him and our thanks and congratulations. I want to read much of it to you so it's in the record that Norm, do you mind if I call you Norm?
No.
Okay. Joined the Transportation Authority in November 1994 as an associate planner to assist the agency in setting priorities for certain specified local, state, and federal transportation funds. He advanced to senior transportation administrator and principal administrator, and in April 2017 received the confidence of the Sacramento Transportation Authority Governing Board to serve as the authority's executive director managing its day-to-day operations. He brought leadership to the authority as its executive director, utilizing his accumulated vast amount of institutional knowledge about the authority, which will be sorely missed very much. Norm has dedicated his career at the authority advancing the transportation needs of all the residents of Sacramento County, relying on the skills he obtained from the University of Arizona, where he got his BSBA degree in regional development and Master of Arts degree in urban geography. Norm's sense of kindness and graciousness have enriched those fortunate enough to know him and work with him. I think everybody on the board really agrees with that, Norm. And he hopes in retirement he will be spending more time with his family, his wife Sandy, and children Bethany and Davy, and our dog named Odie, right? Okay. So on behalf of the Sacramento Transportation Authority Board, we'd like to honor you and recognize you for years of dedicated service to the authority and further extend our best wishes in your retirement.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Congratulations.
save it to the end?
Oh, he wants to save his comments till the end, so.
If that's okay.
Well, we may run out of time. Remember,
okay.
we gotta leave here by 3. Is your wife here today?
No, but she's watching online.
Okay, all right. All right.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Norm. Normally, we'd all say really great things about you and spend an hour on it, but we have so many people here for the items, I think we want to get moving.
That's correct, and I actually hate it when people say nice things about me, so.
We can do it in private.
Okay.
Item number 1, comments from the public regarding matters not on the agenda.
I didn't hear what you said, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I said
Oh,
comments from the
sorry.
public regarding matters not on the agenda.
Jeffrey, you have item 5, which,
And PC, public comment.
okay, I don't see any on the, oh, there we go, off agenda. Okay, Jeffrey. And I want to mention and tell everyone in the room that the Library Authority meets here at 3 o'clock, so we will have to exit the room at a few minutes before that.
Well, that's different than the sewer, so hey, good to hear. My comment is long way coming from 8 years ago to what you are now. Like to see what we see back here behind us of people that are interested in the concern, and do want to encourage, and Henry, I do want in Sacramento a tax that deals with transportation. I am hesitant, though, in 3 years with the recession, that we will not find the dollars that we need when we need them. That's my comment on public. The other side of it is guys, you know, you're going to have to make the decisions here today and the changes that need to be made. I'm hoping that we get roads repaired, but I'm hoping we also develop better policies about what in the world doing in the future. And since microtransit is becoming the community center through there, you need to develop with that, review the policies, and you please review your pilot projects to know what are the results of them, both the good and the reasons why vendors are changing and other things that are occurring. These are things that are not on your agenda, but I think should be on your horizon for looking out for Sacramento County.
Thank you. That's the only off-agenda speaker I see. Did I miss anyone? Okay.
Item number 2 is Executive Director's report.
So thank you, board. You caught me off guard earlier. So, but if it's okay, I'd like to make a few closing remarks at the end of today's meeting. Regarding the executive director's report, I think the theme of our report today is busyness, and not business, but busyness. And so there's a lot to cover here. The Independent Taxpayer Oversight Committee has certainly been busy. In October, they finished the first ever performance audit of the Measure A program, and just this last month, they have completed the annual financial audit of STA, including FSP and SAVSA. And so ITAC Chair Joan Baruki will be making a presentation as our first discussion item to present the audit report and the comprehensive annual financial report. Shortly after our November meeting, KMP Strategies wrapped up pretty much a 2-year effort to gather community priorities and perspectives on transportation. And they wrapped up, it was right after our last meeting, so I wasn't able to include it in your board packet last time, but it is in your board packet today. It's an excellent document, and so I highly encourage that we go through, that you look through that. A lot of the findings in there were considered as the draft expenditure plan was developed. Sacramento Regional Transit District has certainly been busy as well. You recall that your board, back when we created the neighborhood shuttle program in, I believe it was May of 2018, that your board granted RT $12 million to launch the microtransit service, which they call Smart Ride. So there are 3 Smart Ride services now, and in January they'll be adding 6 more, and they have another one after that. And so that shows Measure A dollars being put to good use throughout the county. And we'll be asking RT and some of our other partners to come to the next few meetings to start making progress reports on how they're spending their Measure A dollars and putting them to good use. We finally have some news regarding the Federal Aviation Administration's revenue use policy. You recall that in 2014, the FAA reinterpreted their tax use policy, and they wanted jet fuel sales taxes to be dedicated to airports. This has been an issue for several years now, and we've been tracking it. I had previously estimated that the impact on Sacramento County was $1 to $2 million a year. It has now been, we just can't get a better estimate than that because the California Department of Finance does not keep records in greater detail than that. But it is not an insignificant amount of money for us. In any event, the Department of Finance submitted an action plan to FAA, pretty much saying that we were already in compliance since the state of California at the various airports already spends more than $50 million a year on airports. Just on November 22nd, FAA responded and basically rejected the premise that was adequate. So we're we're back with the self-help counties working on this issue. But I want to make it clear that the issue is not spending tax revenues on airports. You know, airports need tax dollars too. And our airport, Sacramento International Airport, is a wonderful facility. The core issue is that the sales taxes that were approved as part of Measure A were voter approved, and those tax dollars should be spent on voter-approved projects and programs that are contained within the expenditure plan. So $1 to $2 million a year, that's not, in the big picture of things, it's not a huge amount of money for our program, but I believe that we have an obligation to continue to make sure that Measure A dollars are spent on what voters have approved and what the voters' wishes are. Let's see here. Finally, I want to report on the SB1 Local Partnership Program. The California Transportation Commission held a workshop this morning to provide more clarity on the Cycle 3 funding. CTC staff is now recommending a distribution formula of 60% by formula and 40% by statewide competition. Now, what that means for us in Sacramento is that since they plan on a 3-year, grouping 3 years into the next cycle, that this spring, your STA board will have right around $10 million in formula funds to allocate throughout the county. I also expect that there will be right around $216 million available statewide for in the competitive pot. And all of our measure agencies in Sacramento County are eligible to apply for that funding, but it will be up to the STA board to prioritize the projects that go forward to the CTC. They have also indicated that they are not moving the May 18th application deadline, which is, it's once again, we've kind of come to expect this from the first 2 cycles of of the SB1 programs, where the deadlines are very, very short. CTC has indicated that they will release the distribution amounts on January 15th, and then on March 25th, they will adopt the guidelines and do a call for projects. And that gives our agency and your board only about a month and a half to approve the application packages that are going forward. So that's going to be something that your board will have to consider in April and May, and it's going to be, we'll have to work hard on that. And let's see. Oh, finally, just some gut reaction to what I've been hearing is that I anticipate that the formula funds that will be coming, that'll be part of the local partnership program, I anticipate that the CTC will want road projects out of being created out of that funding pot, but that they will use the 40% pot, the competitive portion, to address climate change, greenhouse gas reductions, and vehicle miles traveled reductions. So the program will be split into two, and CTC will try to accomplish both aspects of it. And that concludes my executive director's report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the executive director? Okay, go on to our next item.
Items number 3 and 4 for your consent matters.
Does anyone have any questions on the consent calendar? Got a motion and a second on the consent. All in favor say aye. Aye. No abstention? Okay, consent passes.
Item number 5, STA Draft Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for fiscal year 2018-19. And this is a receive and file.
Hi, Joan.
Hi. My name is Joan Barucki. I'm the chair of the ITALK committee, and I'm here today, a lot of things, and I'm here today to present to you the 2019 annual financial audit that we conducted. We had employed Crow LLP to conduct the audit for us. They have completed the draft of the audit. We reviewed it in November, and we're bringing it to you today for your information. The audit covered all funds that the Sacramento Transportation Authority deals with. And we anticipate the final by mid-January. And the audit began in September of this year. It was completed for our November meeting. And I would like to thank Crow for the excellent job that they did this year, as well as the staff. And it's been a real delight to work with the staff on these audits. Audits aren't usually fun. But I can say that this year the transportation authorities received an excellent financial bill of health. There were no findings in this, and as far as the operation and integrity of each program's implementation. So I think everybody deserves a good pat in the back for that one.
Yeah, I think pats on the back for this document all around Norm, Joan, and Timothy, who's not here today. But anyone have any questions about this financial report? I do have one speaker on it, Joan. If you'd like to be seated, and we may need you.
I will.
Rita Simmersbach.
Hi, I'm Rita Simmersbach. I'm not with the corporation, and I'm pretty new in Sacramento. I have read that in West Sacramento, they have small buses, and they hired a company called VIA, V-I-A, and citizens can call up a certain number, and a smaller bus will come and pick them up and bring them wherever they want to go. I would like to suggest that this will be incorporated in the next budget year, to have smaller buses in neighborhoods where people cannot go and walk to a long distance to reach a bus. I'm fortunate enough I can still walk and I can go to a bus stop. That's all I want to say.
Thank you very much. This is a receive and file. So again, thank you and your committee for all your oversight of this. Thank you. Okay, next item.
Item number 6, discussion draft Measure A Transportation Expenditure Plan.
Okay, Mr. Townsend.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, members. I want to join the chorus for Norm. I've been doing this kind of work for over 40 years, and Norm is one of the best staff people I think I have ever worked with in terms of his knowledge, his support, his willingness to get in my face if I'm headed in the wrong direction in a nice way, and a kind of a quiet confidence that really has been enormously helpful, and so I'm really angry that he's leaving. But thanks a lot, Norm. I'm serious. If we didn't have Will to replace him, I think I would probably tie him in his chair over at STA. We keep him there. But anyway, so thanks a lot. So today, in a few moments, Will Kempton is going to come up and present the first draft. It is a proposal. It is not the expenditure plan. It is a proposal for all of you to consider and for all of the interested parties in Sacramento. What I have learned over the last year working on this is that everybody's very passionate about transportation. The only political problem we have is people are passionate about different things. And so the question is can we as a community come together and recognize that we all have to give up a little bit on some of the things that we feel passionate about so that the entire community can benefit. If we are able to pass a 40-year transportation expenditure plan, it will provide us with $8 billion over 40 years. When we ask the public works directors and all the other organizations out there to submit their statement of need, the number was 12 billion. Well, I'm the last person in the room here to be the math person, but if we can get some matching funds, we actually could get pretty close to what the need statements were from all of the groups. But to get a 2/3 vote, it's extremely difficult, and we're all going to have to work together, and it's going to really fall to this body to bring the how should I put it, the passionate supporters of various aspects of transportation to come together, lay down their arms, and work together. And so, you don't need to hear anything more from me. We're blessed in Sacramento that we have Will Kempton. I've done a ton of these transportation sales tax measures with Will. There's probably nobody more knowledgeable in this field. He has put together the tax measures, he's helped us pass tax measures, and he's actually run the programs after the taxes were imposed. So he knows it, stem to stern, as we say, and so without any further ado, I want to bring up Will Kempton.
Thank
and then
you.
We'll answer questions when we get.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. I need to add my kudos to Norm and my thanks to him for being so gracious in helping me. And while David said some nice things about my background, one thing I do not have a background in is electronics. And so the biggest deficiency that I have encountered in my first couple of weeks of working with Norm has to do with my complete ineptness relative to operating a computer. And so thank you, Norm, for allowing me to interrupt you every 5 or 10 minutes to ask a stupid question about how to line up the dots or to make this go away or to do something else. So, Madam Chair and members, I'm Will Kempton with the TCT consulting team. I've been working on the development of a proposed expenditure plan for a possible transportation sales tax initiative in November of 2020. Let me reiterate at the outset again that we are not asking the authority to approve the expenditure plan today. Rather, we are requesting that you authorize staff to circulate this document for further review and public comment, and to allow the consultant team to continue the process of reaching out to stakeholders, governmental agencies, and the general public to gauge input and reaction to the initial proposal. We have a slideshow, and I will take you through that. And one thing we did not do, Norm, was practice this beforehand. There's a little arrow pointing off to the left. Is that what I press to make this go forward? All right, well, so we'll try this. Okay, our goal, and we did have a goal for the expenditure plan. We, in fact, as you'll see in a few moments, we did in fact have some guiding principles that, proposed guiding principles that we prepared to help us with the preparation of this document. So the goal overall was, and I'll just read it, follow the guiding principles to create an expenditure plan that balances the needs of Sacramento County residents, businesses, and local governments for a transportation sales tax measure that has a good likelihood of passage in the November 2020 election. Our guiding principles, and we sat down and came up with these. They're brief in content, but they cover a lot of ground, and we felt that it was important that we would have guiding principles before we actually initiated our effort. First, we wanted to address the transportation needs of all county residents. We want this to be a plan that applies and benefits everyone. We obviously want to maintain our existing transportation system, and when we say maintain the existing system, we don't just mean streets and roads, we mean our transit system and all other aspects of the mobility network in the county. We want to reduce traffic congestion. That scored very high on our polling, and we think that that's something of great concern to folks. And since I've now started once again commuting from Folsom to Sacramento, I've had some experience with the traffic congestion and have really appreciated the benefits of light rail along the Highway 50 corridor. We want to make transit more accessible, convenient, and affordable, especially for seniors. And we want to improve air quality and reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the bargain. That's critically important, obviously, moving forward with the impacts of climate change. We want to integrate investment in all modes of our transportation network, and we do need to make these systems work together better. We do need a synergy between our highway and transit and rail operations, and that's going to require that the investment indeed be integrated. We want to distribute funding in a geographically equitable manner. That's going to be important to the voters. Everybody's going to want to see some benefit from this program, and so we think that's a vital guiding principle. We want to leverage, and this is really important, we want to leverage regional, state, and federal transportation funds. If you read our decennial report on the first 10 years of the original Measure A, you probably picked up the fact that there was a significant amount of return on investment. In other words, the sales tax dollars were able to leverage and bring back to the county a lot of federal and state money as well. This is going to be really important as we move forward. $8.2 billion sounds like a lot of money, but as David indicated, the needs far exceed that, and so it's going to be critical that we leverage a significant amount of additional money. We want to provide flexibility while remaining true to our commitment to the voters. That's absolutely essential in these measures. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. You have to honor that commitment to the voters. That's why these measures statewide are successful. That's why the motto of promises made, promises kept is something that goes with sales tax initiatives. A 2/3 vote, those dollars are committed, and we want to maintain that commitment. But we also want to have a flexible initiative that allows us to react to transportation needs going forward. And we want to provide accountability and transparency, and you heard from Joan Barucki. This agency is doing a very good job of taking care of the public's money here in Sacramento County relative to the original Measure A, and we want to continue that accountability and transparency for the new measure. So the expenditure plan that we've presented to you is actually divided into 7 categories. And the categories are the main areas of funding, and I'm just going to go through them briefly, and then I'll explain them in just a little bit more detail as I continue my presentation. First of all, we have a local street road repair and transformative system improvements. We don't just want to see money spent on maintenance and rehabilitation, although the needs are huge, and we obviously have to make those expenditures, but we ought to be looking at how we can maybe change the local system to better meet future needs. For the Sac Regional Transit Maintenance Operations and Transformative System Improvements, this is the second major category. So maintenance and operations, just as it is in the first category for local streets and roads, and plus transformative system improvements that are going to help us get the most out of our transit operations. Congestion relief and system access improvements. Congestion relief, as I mentioned earlier, scores very highly in the polls, and that's a category that I think the public will be very interested in. Senior and disabled transportation services, also a program that received high support from our voter surveys, and it's extremely important to a community that does not have other means of mobility. Air quality improvement, this is a very critical element as well. In addition, when I talk about leverage, air quality has the ability to leverage a significant amount of additional, primarily state money, coming into the county, and we're looking forward to taking advantage of that. The regional mobility is our 6th category, and we'll explain that in the more detail as I go through these categories. and then our administration costs. For Measure A, the original Measure A, it was 0.75%. For the Measure B proposal, it was 0.3%, not because the administration costs had been less demanding, but because having two measures at the same time, we didn't need to propose spending a much higher amount for administration. In this proposal, it is 1%. Next up, just a little bit more about each of these categories: local street, road repair, and transformative system improvements. It is divided into two parts, but it is the biggest source of money in the entire program at $3.125 billion. That's 38.2% of the total amount of money. The first 50%, or first half of these dollars, which, by the way, go to the cities and the county by formula, 75% based on population, 25% on lane miles. But the first 50% of the program is for filling potholes, taking care of the existing system, pavement rehabilitation and reconstruction, and safety projects. Meeting with our professional advisory group, they felt it was very important that we include safety as part of this element, and we have. The second piece of this first category is 50% for transformative system improvements. That's complete streets, safe routes to schools, active transportation improvements, arterial improvements. These are the transformative kinds of things that we can do on our local system to make them comport with what we're trying to do to change the system and change the direction of transportation going forward. Now, what we're proposing here is that in the local street road repair, the 50%, the first 5 years, and this is in the proposal that is before you, for the first 5 years, that money must be spent on local street and road repair. At the end of the 5-year period, if a local jurisdiction achieves a pavement condition index of 70, which is defined, and I'll read you the definition, as safe, reliable, and smooth street surfaces with little or no blemishes, potholes or substantial cracking. Streets and roads with a 70 PCI are expected to have a comfortable and safe ride for all motorized vehicles and bicycles with minimum wear and tear on the users. And so, for, again, the first 5 years, the money would be guaranteed to go for local street and road repair, but at the end of that 5-year period, if a local agency had achieved a PCI of 70, they would have the option of moving some of those dollars into the lower category for transformative system improvements. They would have to first go through an engineering certification that their system did indeed achieve a 70 PCI, and they would have to have a plan for how they were going to maintain 70 PCI. So that is category number one. Category two, RT maintenance operations and transformative improvements. There is $1.926 billion, or 23.6% of the total, included for this category. It essentially involves the basic state of good repair, the maintenance element of our transit system, and bus replacements and safety security. And then there's a transformative system improvements piece, and some of the projects that would be in that are zero emission vehicle shuttles, low floor trains system-wide, expanded smart ride, microtransit. You've heard that phrase referred to a couple of times this afternoon already. That's for first and last ride connections. And there's, I think, 3, maybe 4 jurisdictions already taking advantage of that program, and there's more dollars in this measure to support that. So we'll be looking to facilitate improved mobility, increased ridership, and the development of alternative transportation options under this category. Category 3, congestion relief and system access improvements. There's $2.64 billion included in this category, or 32.3% of the total. It includes transit and rail congestion improvement projects, because guess what? Transit and rail is congestion relief. If you can put people onto the trains and the buses and the rail, they're getting off the road. They're helping to reduce congestion, and that's the obvious benefit of including transit as part of our congestion relief program. System access improvements, $445 million. These are primarily interchanges. Almost every jurisdiction, I think every jurisdiction in our county in the needs assessment requested some funding for access to the system. We gave those projects, in terms of the dollar amounts, what we call a haircut, and we've instituted a requirement, a proposed requirement for 1/3 local match. And that makes sense because interchanges in many cases are serving new development or businesses, and there should be a shared cost with the private sector or some other means to help pay for those interchanges. And finally, highway congestion improvement projects, $1 billion in this subcategory. Bus and carpool lanes, freeway to freeway interchange improvements, and what I mean by that are the large scale interchanges, the US 50 and I-5 interchange complex, the I-80 I-5 interchange complex, and the Business 80 State Route 99 US 50 interchange complex. These are Caltrans projects. We've worked with the department. If you look at your project summary, you'll note that we don't, of the $700 million that's available for those state highway projects, we don't assign specific dollar amounts because we wanted to give Caltrans the flexibility to spend those dollars when they can advance projects, because a project that's further along in the delivery pipeline qualifies more effectively for state and federal match. So we want to provide that flexibility to the department in that regard. And also we anticipate a significant amount of federal and state match in this particular program. This subcategory also includes the Southeast Connector project, which we're hopeful will relieve mainline congestion on some of our area highways. Category 4, senior and disabled transportation, extremely important. We've included $250 million, or 3% of the total, and that's transit services for the county's senior and disabled population. Also another very popular project or program with the voters. Category 5, air quality improvement. We're proposing $127.5 million, or 1.5% of the total for air quality. It is for funding programs in support of achieving air quality goals and standards. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a high leverage potential with these dollars. In talking with the air quality management people, they've indicated their success in being able to attract outside dollars to support some of the other programs that will be funded in this expenditure plan. Regional mobility, and I think you're going to hear today from some people representing this particular activity. We're proposing a regional mobility center that will be funded with $20 million over the life of the program. That's about $500,000 a year. And what we're talking about is a public-private partnership that is under development to provide research and development for clean and innovative mobility solutions to attract jobs and also investment in the clean mobility sector. And I think you'll get a much better definition of that from the speakers that are going to be representing this center. And then we also handed out to you today a handout which explains what the Regional Mobility Center would be accomplishing. So that's the 6th category. And finally, our administration category, 1% of the total. The administration of the Measure A program plus independent oversight, including regular financial and performance audits, is paid for out of this pot of money. And if there are funds that are left over, they will be redistributed back to the member agencies through the allocation formula that we talked about during our discussion of category number 1. Just a brief overview of the timeline that we are proposing. Today, we again are asking you to authorize distribution and circulation for public review and comment. On January 9th, at your next board meeting, we will continue the public hearing and ask you to circulate for another 30 days. We will also bring to you on January 9th a draft ordinance. The expenditure plan is actually, as you probably know, a part of the ordinance, but we will bring a draft ordinance that we will ask for your agreement to circulate as well. And then on February 13th is the date that we're proposing our tentative approval of an expenditure plan going forward. We would like to do this in the earliest possible time frame, because if we move forward, we're going to need to spend a significant amount of work on the education program, talking about the needs in the county, talking about the benefits of the existing Measure A and what a new measure can bring about as well. Then we have to begin, assuming you do approve the document on February 13th, we have to begin the process where we go to the city councils and the Board of Supervisors. This is the process contained in the Public Utilities Code, which requires approval by a majority of the cities representing a majority of the population and the Board of Supervisors before we can move forward with the document. In April, at our April meeting, we will actually formally introduce the ordinance. And then on May 14th, at that meeting, look to go with the formal adoption. And finally, in the June-July timeframe, we're hopeful that, assuming we have approvals from the cities, the requisite approvals, asking the county Board of Supervisors to place the measure on the November ballot. So, I just wanted to talk about some additional considerations that aren't currently reflected in the document before you. First of all, we know that things over 40 years, the transportation picture is going to change. And we need to have some sort of a review process, and some people have suggested 5 years. We've put 10 years on the screen here, but we're going to be working on the development of a provision that will allow for a public review every certain amount of years to address changing transportation needs. And it'll be important that we maintain the commitment to the voters in this process. There was a process that was outlined in Measure B, which I think is a good base to start. And we're thinking of including that in the expenditure plan, so you'll likely see that in our presentation next month. We need to develop a subsequent fair and viable allocation plan that will consider an appropriate level of bonding to accelerate project completion. We can't get what needs to be done moving if we're simply going to rely on the money coming in on a regular yearly basis. We really need to consider that allocation plan that will take into account an ability to advance project work. And I know there were some issues associated with the original measure in that regard, in terms of some jurisdictions being up front and getting fully funded to the disbenefit of other jurisdictions behind them, and we'll want to correct those deficiencies. Performance metrics. I think it's very important that we have performance metrics associated with this plan, so that we're not just saying we like that program, we're going to provide the money. We need to know what we're going to get for the investment. The public needs to know what's going to come from their investment of their hard-earned tax dollars, and so we will be developing a series of performance metrics relative to the modes of transportation and the programs that we're proposing. And finally, accountability provisions. This is absolutely critical. And again, this agency now has a good track record, thanks to the board and to the staff. But we really want to build on that. We want to make sure that the public feels very comfortable that these dollars are going to go where they are promised. Some final notes, and before I go on to that, I wanted to say, Councilmember Carr, I forgot to mention to you that one of the projects that was important to you in your district has been added as an eligible project under the City of Sacramento, and I promised staff that I would say that, and I forgot, so I'm saying. Yes, it is. Yes. So final notes, our draft plans based on guiding principles, a countywide needs assessment, voter surveys, and public input. We've attempted to strike a balance, and I want to emphasize that word balance. We've attempted to strike a balance among competing interests and priorities that reflect the values and priorities of the community, local agencies and policymakers, are responsive to the county's most urgent unmet needs, fairly distributed among modes in a geographically equitable manner, provide opportunities to leverage other funding sources, and have a high likelihood of passage, which is critically important. With that, I will close my presentation to take any questions. We certainly welcome any additional input and engagement that comes out of the circulation process, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you. We do have several people signed up to speak here. Jeff Harris first. Did you? But we're not going to be able to hear all the speakers, most likely.
Thank you, Will, and thank you, Madam Chair. First, I wanted to just say, Norm, you know, the report back from the ITALK is really exemplary, and it has a lot to do with you and, of course, staff. But I just want to take this chance to say that you've been a remarkable director, and you will be sorely missed. Certainly when I was chair, working with you was amongst the highlights of my time in office, so you are a great guy. So, Will, thank you for all this, and I really appreciate the reframing of the conversation from percentages to roads and percentages to RT to a much more comprehensive discussion about goals. You know, we learned from the polls that congestion and fix it first were very big concerns to the electorate, and I think that, you know, in terms of striking a balance, you've gone a long way towards doing that. But I do have a couple of concerns moving forward. And I have no problem releasing this to the public so that we can gain more input. One thing is, you know, we have greenhouse gas emission reduction goals and VMT reduction goals. And what's significantly lacking, I think, in the process so far is metrics to support projects that reach those goals. And so I thought I saw James Corliss enter the room. You know, the SACOG just passed the Master Transportation Plan, the NTP, and I would like to look at this through the lens of aligning with the MTP, you know, the TEP and the MTP, to understand what metrics support specific projects. Another question that I have is, how do we rate the priority of projects so that we can actually say to the electorate, these projects will be delivered in this time frame? Obviously, this is a very comprehensive wish list, and most projects are only partially funded with this plan, and there's really no time frame for the voters to understand what projects will be delivered in a particular time frame, and I really think we need to include that discussion moving forward. I think it was really wise of staff to hold March 12th open, because obviously there are many people with many ideas, and there's going to be a lot of feedback at our next meeting and before adoption of a TEP. And I suspect that March 12th is a date that will probably be needed. You know, before we adopt a TEP and start on an education program, I really think that we have to get some of these goals and priorities worked out, because it's that certainty that I would like to be able to deliver to the voters and give them much more certainty about what they're going to get. I mean, this is a big list. Now, delivering all of these things in the next 40 years, that would be great if we can, and as you said, leverage is a big piece of the program, but there's uncertainty with that. I really think that the voters are going to want to know what we actually can deliver. Let's see here. Yeah, that's the most of it. And then the last thing I wanted to say is you mentioned several times the idea of leverage, Will, and that is a key component to this. The TEP really doesn't fully fund any one program in particular. So again, that's an unknown. And my only last suggestion in this, and I've brought it up before, and the people should know that I served on the committee working with the consultants over the last number of months to work on this draft TEP. I fully feel that, you know, in light of our air quality in the area, that the air quality district is not getting enough funding in this plan, largely because they can significantly leverage any funds that they get. And since that's such an important piece of this entire puzzle, I know that I will continue to be making noise that the air quality district gets a bit more funding, because they're, you know, frankly, a lot of us sit on the air quality district, and all of our jurisdictions are hesitant to do a per capita fee, but we are not meeting our attainment goals, and yet we're mandated to do so. So we've got to work harder in that direction. And I fully understand that many of these projects would help us gain attainment, but there again, we don't have the metrics to show which ones would, and which ones would be the most effective at reducing congestion. And that's a key point that I hope SACOG metrics can bring us to, we really have to understand which of these projects are going to meet that big goal that the voters want of reducing congestion. As far as Fix It First, I don't think that there's really any contest about that. Everybody understands the importance of our roads and getting our PCI up, across the county and within the cities. So I don't think that that's a problem, but these other things will be contested, and I do think there's going to be a lot of discussion at our next meeting in January. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go on to our next speaker, I just want to say there are 7 or 8 members of the board that have signed up to speak. We have to be out of this room at 3 o'clock because the library meets here. So for the next several meetings, we'll work with the scheduler for this room to make sure we have more time for the public to comment. As I'm sorry that we don't have enough time today, but I just want to get that out there. So when we do get to public comment, I would suggest be short and pithy and to the point. So Eric Guerra, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. First, I'd if that's a motion to release the report, Councilmember Harris. We don't need a motion.
No.
Direction today. Then I'll concur with that direction. First, I do want to thank Will and Norm for you guys have got a mighty task, and also the consultants, David over there. You guys have really pulled together a lot of information, and I would concur with my colleague here about the need for metrics, and I think partnering with SACOG and the Air District to come back when this gets circulated, also to come back with those metrics. And whether you back out of your garage or you jump on your bike and you get on the road, there's no question that the condition of our roads needs repair. And I think obviously that's a big message here. Anybody who has either been behind the wheel or on a bike and hits a pothole, they're going to feel it, sometimes a little harder than one way than the other. But I think what's critical about this point and how you've reframed it is that this is, while our local roads is a local issue, the real congestion issues and the challenges we face here are regional problems. And so we need to be taking this in an approach of more of a regional solution to addressing our transportation challenges. And I think that it'll help us when we get to the ballot by making sure that our presentation comes with these metrics that could come from SACOG and the Air District at this point. To the point I think you mentioned, leveraging, that the public wants to see that we can leverage dollars. Many of us on this dais here have lamented how we have not received our fair share at times from the state on those dollars. And clearly, as indicated by the executive director's report today, that the competitive grants, we're going to be looking at those VMT, greenhouse gas reductions, congestion relief efforts. So we should start to look at how do we align our projects to maximize the most out of that, so that the voters, when they come to the expenditure plan, have a confidence at the ballot. I will also echo the point that at this point, we've had a lot of robust conversation at the Air District about, meeting our attainment goals and the risk of losing federal transportation dollars. So there's on one side leveraging to get more, but then on the penalty side, not meeting our attainment goals, we could lose dollars. So I think we need to have that conversation in this, and to the point, I think we have to be looking at making sure that the Air District is appropriately funded so we don't fall in that risk of meeting non-attainment, and also capturing some more of those state dollars that are particularly beneficial for greenhouse gas reduction and VMT. And finally, I'll just say that I also appreciate the inclusion of the Regional Mobility Center because, and the 10-year review. This is a 40-year measure with a vote that's going to happen in today's time frame, but we don't know what's going to be happening in 40 years. We need to be investing to plan ahead, to be the controllers of our own destiny of what congestion relief looks at, and having an investment in a regional mobility center that's addressing the number one issue that we hear from constituents, which is congestion. They're looking at addressing the issues of air quality, so we are maintaining our federal conformity standards, I think is important. And, you know, I think the preliminary results on the mobility center, I was very surprised to see that 70% of the respondents approved of a concept like that. I think those metrics of looking at what's going to perform, I think, is going to help us be successful in that. So with that, thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Hanson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a couple questions. I'm going to try to limit my comments so the public can speak. First, Will, you laid out a tentative schedule. We have an enormous amount of public interest as evidenced by the fact that there's about 100% more participation in the audience today than normal. And so why February and not March? We talked about this at my office. I really feel like trying to jam this into a February timeline and not giving us the chance to use that March meeting. So those couple months in between now and then are allow the public to speak. We may even need to have a special meeting because we're being cut short today. So can you tell us what the urgency around February is and why we're not considering this for our March meeting?
Sure. One of the things that we're very concerned about doing, and one of the things we think was probably a reason that that Measure B failed, albeit by a very, very small margin, was that there wasn't a significant amount of time to do a robust education program. And we are thinking if we can have approval in February, we can initiate that process earlier. We did, however, indicate on the schedule sheet that you have before you that March is available. So if we had to move it back to March, we could. It just means that we're losing some time to be able to do the work preliminary to an election in November.
So I was part of Measure B. I think that we had a significant lack of engagement from the community in the lead up to that. It was very rushed. We made a last minute decision to even put it on the ballot. The year of work that's happened prior to this, as evidenced by the people in the room, tell me that I'd rather personally, and I would suggest to my board colleagues, that we give it that extra month and not set an artificial deadline now, but that we give it that extra month now. So the audience members that are here, and this is consequential, this is $8 billion potentially. We need a 2/3 vote. And if we rush the process at this juncture, somewhat like what happened with Measure B, I think we'll end up creating a lot of hard feelings. And so just from my standpoint, I believe that we shouldn't fixate on February. If we can be done earlier, that's one thing, but it doesn't appear to me that if we can't even have enough time for a meeting to hear from the public, that is a problem for the process right now. And so I'd encourage our colleagues to stick with moving this to March. The second thing, it's really a question for Mr. Corliss, if he's willing, and maybe Dr. Ayala. Would you guys come down for a sec? This is James Corliss, Executive Director of SACOG, and Dr. Ayala from the Air District. My colleagues have raised some things that we've also seen in comments from the public, which is, can we have an analysis of this plan that we will release today that shows conformity with the MTP SCS and from an air quality standpoint? Because ultimately, the biggest source of funds we have for match is federal funds, and attainment is critical to that, or air quality attainment. Is that something that the agencies could do within a relatively short period of time, 30 days or less? 30 days?
You want a one-word answer, right? I certainly think compatibility with the 20-year transportation plan that the SACOG board just adopted is fairly easy. There's a list of projects in there, so looking at compatibility is easy. I heard discussion on metrics. I think that's 30 days, 45 days, it's possible. I'd be certainly delighted to get back to you and tell you exactly what we can do in 30 to 45 days, but we've done a lot of that analysis already in the 20-year plan.
Doctor?
And just to complete the response, James and I have already had an initial conversation, and what we can commit to is to come back to you and tell you precisely what we can do. We share the interest in making sure that whatever expenditure plan this board approves moves the needle in the right direction with respect to greenhouse gas reductions, and as many of you already alluded to, make sure that we don't get off track towards attainment.
So we have to move with a sense of purpose, because February, if we end up in that timeline, I think it's very much a rush timeline. So I would say if we can do 30 days, that would be extremely helpful. And whether it's a formal process where our staff actually collaborate with you, or under your own individual authority, you have your staff do it, I'm inclined that we do a motion to direct our staff to collaborate with the two agencies to make it an official part of our process. It's a motion for direction. I don't know if other board members would do that, but this is a critical part of our storytelling. And if this plan makes air quality worse, sets us back in our climate goals, doesn't achieve attainment, which is a basic necessity under the Clean Air Act, I think we will have sabotaged our region for a generation, at least for 40 years, which is a very long time. So I'm willing to make a motion for direction on having the Air District and SACOG work with our staff within 30 days to come back with some analysis for the board to consider. What was that, Jeff?
So at the discretion of the chair, if you're willing to entertain such a motion for direction, I would second.
I was hoping that we would do something like that after all of our board members got a chance to speak. Okay, so we'll take your motion and second and set it aside.
I just have a quick
Mr.
clarification
I'm
on
sorry,
that.
I have another speaker here.
I just wanted, it was about the potential motion. Are you directing STA staff or the PAG staff?
STA staff to work with the two agencies with peers.
Well, because all that data's got to come from the professionals.
From the what?
From the individual projects, the public works departments.
That is not correct. I believe that SACOG keeps a tremendous amount of this data, as does the Air Quality Management District. And so there are two agencies that work collaboratively with STA to assess projects and to meet our federal obligations and state obligations. So I think it's best if it will turn out to be, as our interim director, work with the two other agencies. That's why my motion was structured as such.
Okay, Mr. Gatewood?
All right, thank you. First off, I'm not happy with the plan and how the allocation of dollars is. It's going to be $8.5 to $9 million for more of the smaller cities, of which $200 million over the time is going to get not spent in my city. So for every dollar we give you, we only get 37 cents back. So, I mean, it doesn't really show what's in it for our city. And if you look at the poll numbers and what you're actually adjusting, this isn't going to pass. The stuff that you're putting money towards is lower than 20% in the own survey. I mean, even the stuff that you're talking about that you want to put like almost $1 billion towards is in the 25 percentile. So 67% is just someone trying to say, I want to fix a pothole. Now you're slapping in a 25% one that's going to drop the number down, and I don't really know how you're going to plan to pass this when my city alone is already looking at that we're not going to get a majority of this money, and now it looks like it's going towards stuff that no one cares about. So you're going to, I mean, this is an uphill battle, and now you basically change yourself down to be able to make this go through. And I mean, some of the major projects that we want in our city are roads and stuff. We want our potholes fixed, and this doesn't address it. It's actually going around it and putting it towards other things. That's just my personal opinion, what I feel from a lot of the city, because they all blew me up about the overall plan that we're looking at. I mean, if the poll results are showing weak, and the strongest stuff we aren't putting the majority of the money towards, I don't know how we plan to get this passed since it needs a super majority. I mean, I'm more concerned about like how we're going to spend this money. So that's just coming from the city of Rancho that's coming alongside. I mean, those are the major things that I was hoping to look at, because when I started going through it, I mean, your own marketing, your own survey is telling us that the ideas that we're putting forward don't actually match the dollars that you're attributing to. I would like to see more towards the actual maintenance of the overall system, and And that's the kind of stuff that I would like to see. I mean, I'm very concerned that the JPA is not going to be allocated properly, since that's the back door. Our city is getting ready to add 30 to 40,000 people into it over the next 40 years, and we need the roads that are being able to maintain and be able to kept. So that's the kind of stuff that we're looking for. I mean, it'd be trouble. I would have trouble even getting this through my own council at this level of expenditure. And that's about it. That's what I'm thinking right now.
Thank you. Mr. Hume?
Thank you, Chair. I have never been known to be short, pithy, or to the point, but I'll try my best to keep my comments brief so as not to ruin air quality attainment within this room. I want to thank Director Gatewood for finally speaking some truth about what we're talking about here. And that is, we're up here arguing over, first of all, before I even start, I think it's a complete travesty that we have less than 30 minutes for us to even discuss what's in this plan, let alone to hear from the public to discuss. So whomever scheduled this and backed it up so tightly, that is wrong, 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 and I apologize to everyone that took their time out of their busy day to come down here, and you're likely not even going to get heard. That being said, we're up here discussing what shade of lipstick, and we're not addressing the pig that's in the barnyard. And I apologize to my colleagues who served on the subcommittee that put this together, ostensibly, to Ms. Howell's point, without the input from jurisdictional staff on do these projects even make sense to the communities for which they're being granted. I was told at the front end of this effort that we were going to look to the poll numbers as our Bible, as our guiding document, and that was going to inform what got put into this TEP. For many of these system access projects, they barely breach a third of the voters in the communities where they're going to have the most effect. If you can't convince a third of the voters in the communities where you're spending the money that's a good idea, what hope do you have in the rest of the region? So I think we've got a tiger by the tail here. I think it does not allocate money the way that it ought to be. I can get into more of that, but frankly, I don't want to take up too much time because there's a lot of people that want to talk. But I just want to say, if we look at these final notes, they look great on paper. They are lofty goals, but we're calling out that we want to reflect the values and the priorities of the community, and yet we ignore, by virtue of where we're placing these dollars, what the community has told us. And I understand that opinions are like belly buttons and we all have them, and we're going to argue over where we think the money ought to go, but even the very data we're relying on isn't informing this expenditure plan the way that it should. It's fairly distributed from a geographical standpoint, but certainly not from a population standpoint or from a contribution into the system standpoint. And the final note there is the one that I probably have to take the most umbrage with, is that we want to make sure it has a high likelihood of passage. I don't think this thing has a snowball's chance in HE double hockey sticks of passing. And I think we're going to spend a lot of money chasing our tail on this to end up right back where we are. But if we are going to do that, I say quit playing small ball and let's go out for a full cent. Let's get more money to divvy up. Because right now we're arguing over the table scraps instead of putting steak in front of the voters. So I can't say enough bad about this as far as what I think it does. I don't think it gets us where it needs to be, and I would agree with the idea that this thing has to go out till March just to give us more time to kick this thing around, because right now this cake isn't even close to being baked. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd call that pithy. Yeah. Director Frost.
Okay, I too will try to be brief. I want to say that I agree with Director Hansen that we should not try to do this in February and push it forward. And I also agree that it's not fair to ask us to give direction when we don't all have really an adequate chance to review and listen and have our comments in. So we might need another meeting before we give direction to go out to public. And at this point, I could not support the existing draft expenditure plan. I want to say that when I voted to do the survey, I was under the impression that this was going to guide us on what is it that the voters would be willing to do, and what kind of an expenditure plan can we put together that they would actually vote for. And when I read the survey, the entire survey, and all the crosstabs, what it's saying is that the voters would like to see the roads fixed and congestion relief. And I know that RT is doing an amazing job. I know every single one of the air quality, I'm on the air quality board. I know we need money. Need money at all levels. And so if you're looking for an initiative and you want to put something together that's going to pass, if everyone says they'll vote for this and you don't give them that and they don't vote for it, then you get nothing. And so something is better than nothing, and it's possible that there is something here that we could all support that that the voters could actually support as well. The survey went to 1,636 people, which is an amazing survey. It's a survey that, generally you see a survey that goes to 200 or 300. This is a survey that we can trust the data. And there was only a 2.5% margin of error, which is very low. So we know we can have confidence in this survey, and what the survey is telling us is that they want to fix the roads and they want us to fix the trust issues that they have with us. In other words, they want us to say what we're going to do, and then they want us to do it. And so I don't believe that this expenditure plan is giving what the voters stated they wanted in the survey. I'm not prepared to support it at this time. And lastly, I just want to mention, and I also want to mention, if we had money to fix the roads, there might be a little bit of relief for some of those other areas like air quality. Our budgets might not be quite as tight, and there might be a little bit in it for everyone because there's some relief if we can get the voters to see something they can vote for. I also want to say I'm still a little bit hung up on the informed ballot. We're talking about a 30-year initiative, 40-year initiative, and an initiative that has no sunset. If we give the voters what they actually want, and we do, and the no sunset on the informed survey said that 60% of the voters would go for that, where 40 years was 53% and 30 years was 56%. The highest number, the highest polling for an informed ballot was a no sunset with 200 million. And so I don't think we should be, I do see, and I sense in that survey that the voters are tired of us coming back for more, and they never get what they want. And I think if we just once and for all give them what they want, and we go for it with no sunset, we might have a stream of funding that actually can help us do what we're supposed to be doing in the first place. We have to fix the roads. We don't have a choice. I know we want to reduce congestion, and I know we need public transportation, and we need air quality, and we need all these things, but what we really need is money, and we have to fix the roads. So those are my comments. I'm not ready to, I don't think it's something that can pass either, and I think we should, it should be upside down. It should be way more to the roads, which is what the voters said they wanted.
Thank you. Director Suen?
Thank you, Chair. My colleagues' comments before me, I think is a good segue for what I want to highlight, but I want to first start by...
It says it's on.
He just needs the... Okay. I first want to start by... Is this on?
No, you're just not on that. You're not logged in.
Okay. So what I was saying was my colleagues before me, the contrast in these comments, I highlight the point I want to make. But before that, I want to first give kudos to Will, Mr. Townsend, and Norm. This is a huge effort, what you've done. And despite any criticisms, I mean, folks should realize the complexity that and the amount of data you had to comb through to even bring this together to this point. So I do want to say kudos to that. You know, we're a diverse community. We have many needs, and I want us all in this room to not lose sight of the fact that there is a great need. Infrastructure in general, I believe, is, you know, we're headed towards a crisis, whether you want to talk levees, dams, weirs, bridges, roads, transit, electrical grids, gas mains. I can keep going on and on. So, and the time it takes to implement these things are sometimes decades. So we need to not lose sight of that. But in doing so, a lot of my colleagues mentioned earlier, you know, the need to be aspirational. We talked about getting input from the air quality, from SACOG. Yes, I think we want to progress the plan in a good way, moving the needle. So being aspirational, I think, is good. Greenhouse gas reductions, transferring trips into more transit and out of cars, great. But we also need to make sure that our needs of our programs, the board members here, the communities that we represent, our staff, the public works directors, the programs, we need to meet the needs of those entities. And then finally, as was highlighted also, is the electorate. It does us no good for all of us to come up with an aspirational plan that we can all agree on up here with our programs and then go fail at the ballot box, because the individual voter may not recognize the need to be aspirational and may not appreciate the needs of these programs. So my point is, you know, if you think of it of a 3-scale type of scenario we're in, any one of these can tank us. And if we don't keep that in mind as we're having these conversations, all this will be academic. So I just want to highlight that, and I'm trying to be brief, but there'll be plenty of opportunity to talk. Well, I should say I hope we will make plenty of opportunity to talk, as Director Hansen mentioned. I mean, this seems to be a short timeline, but I hope we will do that. Find a way to do that. If we have to have a workshop every other day, I'm all for it. It's a very important topic for our region, and you know, there's a lot of conversations to be had. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. My microphone's off. Mr. Natoli.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I recognize the hour is getting late here, so I'm going to be quick. But first, I want to say, I think in light of that, and again, it's nobody's fault that we're up against the clock, but I'm going to suggest that, and maybe to just bounce off of Director Soon's comment a moment ago, that you know, whether we go to March or not, I think we need to spend some time in session doing some more listening, and I want to thank my colleagues and all those that participated in listening sessions. But now that we're getting down to brass tacks here as it relates to what a plan might look like that may be ultimately presented to the voters, we need to spend the time, whether it's in these chambers or in other chambers. And I would suggest that we either start late in the afternoon, early evening, and that we set aside some additional meetings. Again, it may conflict with some of our schedules, but I think we really need to have some discussion about that, either before we leave here today and or leave it to our chair and incoming chair to work with our staff to see if we can put some of that together. Again, this is my third go-around as it relates to transportation expenditure measures and measures that got before the voters, and I'll just say that when it comes down to crunch time, you do get the diversity of opinions, and certainly this time I think there's been a good deal of effort and work, a tremendous amount of effort and work that's gone into bringing what's before us here today for the first look. But I would suggest that we need to spend some more time, not only with the folks that are here, but others that may want to be here but can't because of the time constraints and such. Secondly, I would just say, as it relates to the expenditure plan, I think it was clear, certainly in the unincorporated area, but I think generally as it relates to modes of transportation and certainly the transportation network, that the term "fix it first" was a very, very, very high priority. But I wanted to say too that, you know, often it's alluded to that it's filling potholes in areas of the county, but certainly in other areas, you know, in other incorporated areas. There is a need to not just fix potholes anymore. We've got to rebuild the system that is crumbling. And I'm going to say it about the rural roads, since I'm one of a few up here that represents rural areas. The areas that serve the rural portions of our county, the in and out, the movement of goods and people, it is in a shambles. And I can tell you that when you're on the margin of the percentages in the polling, and I appreciate the in-depth review of that, that if there isn't some assurance, you're going to have a tough enough time anyway with some of those voters. But if it's just fix it first and chase the potholes are the best part of the roads in some parts of the areas I represent. That's the best part of the pavement surface is the pothole that's been filled. And so I stress that because I think in all seriousness, when others have 70% PCI, I'm delighted for them, and that's good management, good investment. But I think that's going to need to be stressed. I would just like to say too that with 40 years, I think that as you've alluded to, Will, and I think the work here, having some flexibility, keeping faith with the voters, but allowing those that will succeed us in these chairs over that period of time, assuming we get a successful measure, there needs to be the opportunity to calibrate, maybe recalibrate over time, and to allow, within the framework of those who are serving at that time, having some certainty around the funding, but also having the ability to, I think, make adjustments as modes of transportation shift, as maybe rules shift with it from on high. And so I think the work that both our public works departments, but certainly our transportation planners, our air quality folks, obviously our regional planners, but certainly the local representatives need that flexibility. And I heard you allude to it, but I think it's a real key part of getting support. And so lastly, I'd just say that I think any additional analysis is helpful. But I do think that, the work you bring us today is certainly a work in progress, and there's never going to be enough in here to satisfy everybody's demands and needs, desires, and wants. But I think it needs to reflect something that can be supported, and hopefully we, working together here over the next few months, can, find that sweet spot. But I think it's going to be a challenge. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Kempton, this seems kind of simple to me what you're asking us to do. One, receive presentation on Measure A Transportation Expenditure Development Process. I think we did that. You presented a presentation and we received it. The second thing that's being asked is direct staff to release the discussion draft transportation expenditure plan for public review and comment. And as a result of that public review and comment period, you may change some of the things on the original expenditure plan. Is that correct?
That is true, but
that is true, and you'll give the jurisdictions a chance to weigh in if they think that they are not getting their fair share, or if they think these things should be reprioritized. All you're asking is direct staff to release the plan so you can start the public review process. And that was amended to say, in the process of doing that, work with SACOG and Air Quality Management District. I'm ready for the question. It's simple, release the thing and start the public review process.
Okay, thank you. I want to have a couple of scenarios for the board unrelated to the issue before us about the 35 speakers we have in front of us. Director Gale has contacted the Library Authority, and they think they can move pretty quickly. So one scenario is we adjourn for 20 minutes, let them finish their business and come back. The second scenario is the next meeting is January 9th, and we start the meeting with all the speakers that are already here today. And then it also might give our team a chance to talk to some people here too. So would you rather wait till January and start with all the speakers? And I really apologize. I think we were so busy on the agenda we didn't focus on how long it was going to take.
Madam Chair, the clerk has also informed me that there is no meeting after our January 9th meeting, and so we can go to 5 o'clock on that day if desired.
You mean on the 9th?
On the 9th, that's correct.
Yeah, so we could have the afternoon and cover it all then.
Or as late as needed.
Good idea,
That's a
because
good idea.
people haven't reviewed the TEP yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we want to release it? Yeah.
Eric?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I would actually encourage that we come back in January with the list that we have of speakers, and I would ask that my colleague, Councilmember Hansen, maybe withdraw his motion, because it sounded to me that the staff from the Air District and SACOG and our staff are willing to work together to get this information. So rather than this parliamentary procedure that we're embarking on, we could actually do this pretty quickly based on what the agenda is designed as. It doesn't require us to do a motion.
Sure, can I respond?
Yeah, Mr. Hanson?
I just, time is so tight right now, and if Will, Norm, James, and Alberto can actually do that stuff, whether formally or informally, so we have that information. I think there are a lot of people from the public who would like that information. It helps us as a decision point. It is not the decision point. So if there's some affirmation that can happen 30 to 45 days.
We'll certainly work with the Air District and SACOG. They're the ones that are going to be doing the bulk of the work in terms of the analysis that you've asked for, but we're happy to work with them.
I don't think it really needs a vote. I just think it's better for a sense of the board. So I'll withdraw my motion, but I do think we should release this plan so that the folks in the audience can tell us what they think.
It's public.
Well, okay. But are we officially receiving comments if we haven't directed staff to release it?
Yes.
Well, it's a public, it can be requested, and the authority has to provide the document.
Are we in a formal comment period? Because that's what it sounds like on the agenda, that you're
going to probably continue the item to January, so the item's continued, and that's when the public comment's going to take place, unless you decide to adjourn for 20 minutes.
And I'll actually move to continue to January. As much as I hate that all of these people have come down here today and don't get the opportunity to speak, I know that even if we were to come back, a number of us are at an event this evening.
I'll second that to continue this meeting to January 9th.
Quick clarification on the motion.
Mr. Natoli?
Yeah, so, and we are going to release the report, put it up on the website. There's no secret to what Burke said. Let's release it. It's out there, it's a draft, and it's a work in progress, I guess.
He went through it.
Yeah,
right here.
Yeah, so make it all available.
I've already had 4 comments today.
Okay, so we want you to release it. We want you to come back to the January 9th meeting. And everyone who signed up today, I hope you all know how badly we feel that you didn't get an opportunity to speak. And we will, I'm going to work with staff and see if we can schedule a couple of extra meetings possibly in February and in case we need them to further work on this plan. Okay, so we need to vote on the continuance. All those, no?
Are we voting to release
Continue
the plan? Are we voting to
You don't
release
have to
this?
vote. You don't have to vote to release it. It's released. It's
Okay,
public.
okay.
There is a motion and a second to continue this item, which you should
Okay.
vote on now.
Yes, to January.
To January 9th.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Noes or abstentions. And our strongest apologies to all of you who came took time out of your day to come down here and meet with us. Hopefully some of the comments you heard today help you see where we're at. Okay, so we have next item.
Comments from the authority members.
Any authority members have comments?
But Norm wants to say something.
Well, I'm not through. Okay. Just. I'm sorry, we're still in session. If you could leave the room for your conversations, sure appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, we're still in session here. Just hold on a second, Norm.
Please take your conversations outside, please. We're still in session. Thank you.
You didn't. Oh, just the other microphone.
You know what? I thought this was the chair's. So
Thank you, board. I just, as today is my last board meeting, and just my last day in the office is December 24th. I took some time to reflect, and so I realized, my first day at STA was November 14th, 1994. That was 25 years and 1 month ago, which means that I've been here longer than anyone, even Don Natoli, who came on the board in January of 1995. But congratulations, Don, after I'm gone. By the end of January, you will have the title of being the longest tenured SDAer, and I don't think that record will ever be broken. I also realize that I've just been truly blessed to work with some amazing and talented people. But first of all, I want to thank you, the board, for your outstanding leadership and especially for your support. It was only after I assumed the ED role that I realized just how supportive you were. There was after one meeting one day, and I overheard two of you talking, and one of you had said, "Whatever happened to our 20-minute meetings?" And the other person just raised their hands and shrugged their shoulders. But thank you for your patience in dealing with my packed agendas and my long meetings. I think because of your support that we've been able to cover so much ground in the last 2.5 years and be where we are. Honestly, I think we are in a really, really good place by any measure, and I'm very proud of that. I also want to specifically thank my staff, Jennifer Dahl and Tim Jones. They're tremendous, and if you have an opportunity to get to know them better, I think you would just be amazed at how supportive and professional they are in doing their job. There's so many others that I wish I could thank. I can't name them all. But I do want to call out my wife, who is watching online patiently. She, in her own way, has probably sacrificed as much as I have these last few years, but every day, she's home with words of encouragement and just a listening ear. So, and she's the reason that I look so much forward to retirement. Great. So, those of you that know me well, you know that I hate leaving in the middle of things. You also know that I hate leaving things undone, and so that's really killing me. But on the other hand, I can't think of a better exit than to be able to say, Will Kempton is taking my place. I mean, how many people can actually say that? I know, I'm serious, I'm at peace just knowing that that you'll be in good hands with Will after I'm gone. I'm very proud of what I've been able to accomplish together these last few years, but believe me, it's been a team effort with you and with the staff and with your agency staffs and with our ITALK and everyone else. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you very much.
You did an amazing job at turning around the ship. My only regret is that we should have hired you sooner.
Yeah. Thank you. Mr. Kempton, since you are about to be the new executive director, I'd like to talk to you afterwards about meeting schedules. And how we keep all these names. And again, our apologies to the public for missing the time frame. And so, Norm, best, good luck. We are going to miss you very much.
Thank you. I'll miss you too.
Meeting's adjourned.
I promise.
You're welcome. I just wanted to get them going now.
Break the time barrier. It's 3 hours.
No, our meeting.
Okay, I'm just. All right, man.
They all had other